Why don't we contact and bring on Husain Haqqani, the former Pakistani ambassador to the U.S. He served in that role from 2008 through 2011. Mr. Haqqani, currently senior fellow and director for South and Central Asia at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C., joining us from Newsmax Washington. Ambassador Haqqani, we thank you very much for your time. Can you give us an update on the siege today in Peshawar?
I believe that the Pakistani Taliban have taken responsibility for this action. Gunmen took over a school. They actually targeted children. They say that they were targeting only senior children, which of course is no excuse. The Pakistani army conducted a military operation. Unfortunately, at least 126 children and some soldiers, as well as all the gunmen, have been killed.
Now, as I understand it, this school had the equivalent would be grades 1 through 10 in the United States. So really from little children, from 5 or 6-year-old all on up through teenagers. And the Taliban, in your opinion, what you're hearing, Ambassador, was just killing these students indiscriminately.
Absolutely. The age group would be 5 to 15. As far as the Taliban are concerned, they have issued a statement to the effect that they were targeting only the grown-up kids, which basically means 14, 15. But of course, a lot of younger ones were also killed, and there are eyewitness accounts of them being very indiscriminate in killing. They say that they are avenging the Pakistan military's operation in North Waziristan, but that of course is just utter nonsense. The Taliban have killed children, attacked schools before. They represent a certain mindset, a certain worldview. They basically want to overrun Pakistan, or the parts of Pakistan that they can overrun.
Mr. Haqqani, we're just now receiving reports that the Pakistani military fired an airstrike. Are you surprised by that? And why on earth would the Taliban target a school full of children? For just those of us that are trying to wrap our brain around.
As you know, the Taliban basically argue that there is only one particular form of the Islamic religion that should be practiced. They consider themselves the only ones who practice it. They consider anyone adopting Western ways or modern education as unacceptable. And they have also initially the Taliban were of course ruling Afghanistan. At that time, Pakistan's military supported the Taliban. After 9/11, Pakistan switched its support, and out of that were born the Pakistani Taliban, people who actually target the Pakistani military. There has been a lot of ambivalence in Pakistani policy towards this group for a long time, which has allowed them to flourish. If you remember, they attacked Malala Yousafzai's school in Swat when they took control of that area. They don't want little girls to study, and they don't want young boys to study what they consider to be Western ways. In this particular instance, the school was the army public school, where the children of a lot of military officers attend. And I think that one of the reasons why they wanted to target was to make the point that we will make the cities of Pakistan unsafe for the children and family members of Pakistani military.
Ambassador Haqqani, we know you're going to stay with us through the break, but in 30 seconds, do you believe that this at long last will galvanize public opinion in Pakistan against the Pakistan Taliban?
I would like Pakistani leaders have often deluded themselves with conspiracy theories. We are already hearing them on Pakistani media, people trying to blame India, Israel, other so-called enemies of Pakistan, instead of recognizing that this is a problem that comes from within Pakistan and therefore must be dealt with by Pakistan.
Ambassador Haqqani, we're going to ask you to stand by. We will continue our conversation as America's Forum continues here on
People.
Let's continue to talk with Ambassador Haqqani, who joins us from Newsmax Washington. Ambassador, you framed it as a military-to-military relationship. Let me cite a quote from a military man who became a prominent political leader in the United States. It was George Washington who said, "We have no permanent friends, we have no permanent adversaries. We instead have permanent interests." Against that backdrop, how would you characterize the current state of relations between the U.S. and Pakistan?
The current state of relationship between Pakistan and the United States is actually not one based on congruence of interests. The United States' interest is in Pakistan becoming a stable, modern state, a democracy that gets along with its neighbors, that actually joins the process of globalization, not a country which is a safe haven for all kinds of Islamist and extremist ideologies, and certainly not for terrorist groups. Unfortunately, Pakistan's leaders think that the only important element of their foreign policy is competition with and animosity towards India. Unlike George Washington, Pakistan's leaders are not willing to recognize that there are no permanent enemies, and therefore they should not consider India as a permanent enemy either. Look upon it instead as a potential trading partner and neighbor. They don't do that, which is why they end up supporting, and you know that India is much larger than Pakistan, so to compensate for its smaller size, Pakistan uses the jihadis as a sub-conventional alternative for conventional military competition. That is why Pakistan has ended up attracting all kinds of jihadis, and unfortunately some of those jihadis have now turned against Pakistan itself.
Mr. Ambassador Haqqani, many have questioned the sincerity of that relationship between the U.S. and Pakistan, especially after Osama bin Laden was killed and captured and found in Pakistan. Do you agree with that? Do you understand that?
I think that there is a lack of commitment on both sides. Of course, the Americans do not need to continue to support Pakistan, but the fact remains that over the last 50 years, America has plowed in more than $40 billion in assistance to Pakistan. That should have been the basis for Pakistan to develop its own economy. We have ended up having leaders who look upon that assistance as some kind of entitlement. And taking that aid, we continue to pursue policies that our leaders deem to be in Pakistan's interest. I don't. I think it would be in Pakistan's interest to have peaceful relations with Afghanistan, good relations with India, a normalcy, higher education rate, more economic productivity. But instead, our leaders have pursued nuclear weapons, a much larger army than our economy can support, and tried to use the United States by saying, you know what, wherever you need us, we'll be there for you, but not being there for the U.S. completely, which is why there is so much distrust between the two countries.
And away from the geopolitical equation, we have the sad reality of today's horrific attack of the school in Peshawar. Again, Ambassador Haqqani, update us with information that you know, that you may have gotten from your sources in Pakistan that can augment what we've heard. About a minute remains, sir.
There are more than 130 people dead as a result of a Taliban attack on the Army Public School in Peshawar. The school is run for the benefit of the children of military officers who serve there, but a lot of children from civilian families also attend. It is an English medium school, which means that children are taught in English. They wear neckties to school, and the Taliban decided to target it. They indiscriminately shot at children. According to eyewitnesses, the Pakistan military conducted a military operation. More than 130 people are dead. It is in many ways one of the biggest tragedies in Pakistan's recent history, even though Pakistan has had many, many terrorist attacks over the last 10 years.
Ambassador Husain Haqqani, now at the Hudson Institute, checking in from Washington, D.C. on this day of a national tragedy in Pakistan. We appreciate your time, sir. We hope you will come back and join us again as we continue to watch the ramification of today's terror visited upon the school in Peshawar. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. We certainly appreciate it. Very tough situation there, and you heard what the ambassador had to say, courageously speaking out against politics in his country the way it's developed. Your take on America's relation with Pakistan. Tweet me at NewsmaxTV, #AmericasForum.